It's your friendly math tutor, Miss C here. And today we are talking about the 5 ways you'll be asked to write an equation in slope-intercept form, and we're going to talk through how you do that. So the first way is when you are given a slope and a y-intercept from a table, from a graph, when given a slope and a point, and finally, when given 2 points. So we are going to work through all of these today, and I will have chapters marked in the video so you can jump to exactly what you need to see. So first things first, let's write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form when the slope is 2/3 and the y-intercept is 0, 5, or just 5. So we know that slope-intercept form looks like this, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So it tells us in its name exactly what is included in the equation. And the nice thing about problems like this is they're very straightforward. In for the slope goes what they give us, which is 2/3. And in for the y-intercept is 5, okay? And we'll say 5 equals b. Now, I just want to be really clear. The y-intercept is different than the y value in this equation. So just be careful there. So when we write our equation is going to be y equals our slope, which is 2/3, and it multiplies by x, and then we add our y-intercept, which is 5. There is one other correct way to write this. You can also say y equals 5 plus 2/3 x. Because this is addition, you can change the terms as long as you keep their signs, change the location within the equation. All right, so that is the first way that we will be asked to write slope-intercept form. Here's the second way. So when we are given a table and asked to write the equation in slope-intercept form, here's how we do that. So the first thing I'm going to look for, because I think this is the easiest way to approach this, is I'm going to look for the y-intercept. So the y-intercept happens when x equals 0. So I'm going to look at my table and I'm looking for where x equals 0. That's right here. So what that means is my y-intercept occurs at 9. So we could say that b equals 9. All right. And now we need to try to find our slope. So I'm going to be looking, remember, slope is the difference of y values over the difference of x values. So I'm going to start on the left side, and I'm going to find the difference in x values. So I'm going from -2 to 1, that's a +1, -1 to 0, +1, 0 to 1 is +1, 1 to 2 is +1. Okay, they're all the same. That means my change in x is 1. And now, oh no, I'm going to run out of room. Let me just move this guy. Over here, we'll see b is 9. We'll move that there. Okay, so I'm going from 5 to 7. That's an increase of +2. 7 to 9 is an increase of +2. 9 to 11 is an increase of +2 and +2. So I know that my change in x is 1, my change in y is 2. So slope, we often think of as rise over run, or the change in y divided by the change in x. And by that explanation, we know that my change in y is +2 and my change in x is +1. In math, we typically don't write fractions with a 1 in the denominator, so we could really just say that my slope is 2. Okay, so let's go ahead and then write our equation. So I'm going to say y equals, my slope is 2. That gets multiplied by x, and then my y-intercept is 9. So that is how you write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form when you have a graph. Just as a side note, if all of these numbers on the left and all of these numbers are on the right, if they are not consistent, so you'll see the change in x is all growing by 1, the changes in y is all growing by 2. If for some reason one of these numbers was a 3 instead of a 2, or one of the +1s was a number other than +1, you can't do this. It means the table does not represent a line. So go ahead and stop, and there's no equation that you can write. Okay, moving on. We will also be asked to write equations in slope-intercept form when we're given a graph. So again, just like on the last table, I always like to look for the y-intercept. And that is the point at which our line crosses the y-axis. You can see it's right here at 6. So this point right here, we could write as 0, 6. What that means is our b value is 6. That's what we're going to be plugging in. Now we need to find our slope. I highlighted the points on these. If you are working on this on your own, you are going to have to look at where the points exactly hit the crosshatch. And what I mean by that is they have to be exactly on a grid line, like not in the middle. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go down. You can see we're going down 1. And then we are running from -4 to 2. Now, my scale is really interesting here. It's going by 0.5 is how Desmos set it up. I'm really going from 4 to 3 to -4 to -3 to -2, which is really, I'm running 2 units, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and put my numbers in here so you guys can see what I'm doing here, since this is a really expanded scale. Okay, I'm going to do this again and make sure I'm going down, right? Because I'm looking at my change in y. Down 1. And I'm running over, I'm going from -2 to 0, which is 2. On this one, I'm going down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2. Okay, so in math, down means negative. So down 1, and then I'm running to the right 2. Whenever we make a movement to the right is positive. So 2. So just by the way, in math, I have -1 over 2. That's the same thing as saying -half. They're equivalent. So every way you write that in this way is negative. So that you can write them both ways. So my equation again is y equals mx plus b. My m is -half times x plus my y-intercept, which is 6. That's one way to write this. The other way I could write this is y equals 6 minus half x. And all I've done there is I've written the y-intercept first and the slope second. I actually prefer this way, the second way, when my slope is negative, because sometimes if I'm writing and my writing's a little messy, that negative sign gets jumbled up with the equal sign, and sometimes I miss my negative. So either way is correct. Up to you how you choose to do it. That's a cool thing about math. And finally, not finally, we're almost to the second to the last. We're exactly to the second to the last problem. We're now writing the equation of a line when the slope is -4, and we have a point that our line passes through, which is -1, 13. So I'm going to go ahead and write our equation here. So what we know is our slope is -4. I'm going to go ahead and substitute that in. And I'm going to do it in blue, just like it's written up there. So you can see how I'm substituting. And now I'm going to take my point, and I'm actually going to do this substitution in orange. So you'll see this in orange in the equation. The -1 is an x value. The 13 is the y value. So all I'm going to do in my equation is substitute the 13 in for y. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm going to rewrite my slope as -4. Oops, except I'm not doing that. Let me try again. -4. And then my x value goes in as -1 here. And then what I don't know is b, which is my y-intercept. So all I need to do right now is simplify this equation. So when I do that, I get 13 equals -4 times -1, which is 4, plus b. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and b equals 9. Okay, so now I know my slope, which is -4. I know my y-intercept, which is b. So really, I could just take this equation here and just substitute b in, and that's what I'm going to do. So y equals, I'm going to put -4. So except you can't see that color. I guess I'll just have to continue writing this all in white. -4x plus my y-intercept, which is 9, and that is the equation of this line. Finally, this is where we're always going, is to write the equation through 2 points. that are on the graph. So this means we have to not only find the y-intercept like we did in the last one, we also have to find the slope. I think it's easiest to find the slope. There are many different ways to do this, including using a form called point-intercept form, or yes, point slope form, sorry. I'm not going to show that in this video. I do have a separate video that I'll link below if you want to see that, but I'm going to just show this through slope-intercept form. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start by finding the slope, okay? And to do that, we are looking at the change in y's over the change in x's. And here's how I like to do this to make sure that we don't accidentally mix up our numbers. I have a video on this too that I will also link below. So I'm going to pick one of my points to go first. And the point that I'm going to use to go first is 4, 2. And I'm going to do that in yellow so you can see what I'm doing. My y goes in the numerator, and directly below that y value has to be my x value. Okay. And now we're finding the difference between the 2 points, right? And the numerator represents the difference in y's. The denominator represents the difference in x's. So I have negative 13 as my y value. And in the denominator, I have negative 1. You don't technically have to put parentheses around these values. I just tend to do that because when I'm subtracting a negative, I want to make sure that I see that's what's happening. Okay, in math, when we have a minus a negative, that makes a positive. So we end up with 2 plus 13 in the numerator, and we end up with 4 minus, or 4 plus 1, which is 5. I'm going to come down here, and I have 2 plus 13, which is 15, divided by 5, which means our slope is 3. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here, and I'm just going to write our slope is 3, so we have that noted. Okay, so now I am going to go ahead and I'm going to jot down the equation that we're using, y equals mx plus b. And you guessed it, the first step is I am going to substitute my slope in for m. So I'm going to go ahead and just erase this m here, and that is where I am going to pop 3 in. So there we go. Now, math is about substitution, and so to find b, I'm going to either pick my point 4, 2 or my point -1, -13, and everywhere I see y, I'm going to substitute the y value. Everywhere I see x, I'm going to substitute the x value. Because I prefer positive numbers, I am choosing 0.42. So everywhere I see y, I'm going to substitute 2, and everywhere I see x, I'm going to substitute 4. The only variable I will have left in my equation after I do that is b, and that's exactly what I want because that's what I need to solve for. So in 4, y goes 2 equals 3 times my x value, which is 4, plus b. I'm going to go ahead and simplify. 2 equals 12 plus b. And to solve for b, I am just going to deduct 12 from both sides. And when I do that, I get -10 equals b. So now we know m is 3, b is -10. So I'm really going to just take this equation I started with right here and substitute -10 in for b, and we end up with our final equation, which is y equals 3x minus 10. And that is how you find the equation of a line through 2 points. All right, I do have one bonus problem for us, and it's a bonus because all of our other problems have asked us to find the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. And for this problem, we're actually going to go over point slope form since that will be covered in your math class as well. So the difference is slope-intercept form has the slope and the y-intercept. Point slope form has a point and the slope. So here's what this form looks like. It's y equals y sub 1 plus m times the quantity x minus x sub 1, where x sub 1 and y sub 1 are the point. And as usual, m is our slope. So the good news here is you actually have the skills already to use this form. You just have to know what to plug in. So we're going to start by finding the slope. And we just went over this in the last problem. Consider pausing the video and seeing if you can set up your slope correctly and finding the correct slope. Otherwise, I'm just going to work through this really quickly, and hopefully you'll end up with the same answer that I did. So I went ahead and I plugged in my first point. -5 is the y. Remember, the numerator is the change in our y values, or the difference of y values. The denominator are my x values. I'm now deducting my second point, right? The y goes in the numerator again, and the x goes in the denominator. I'm going to simplify this. M equals -5 minus 25, which is -30, divided by 2 minus negative. A minus a negative turns into a positive, so this really becomes 2 plus 3, which is 5, which gives me a slope of -6. So I'm going to come over here and make a list. My slope is -6. And now here is why a lot of people like point slope form. We can go ahead, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to plug in my slope of -6 here. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight these. Everywhere I see a y value as one of my coordinates, I'm going to plug it in for y sub 1. Really, really important that we are not substituting in for y. We're substituting in for y sub 1. And everywhere we see x in our point, we are plugging in for x sub 1, not just x. So I'm going to go ahead and do that substitution, and then we're going to be done. It's that simple. So y equals, our only choice is to pick the point, and I tend to pick the points that have the smallest numbers. So I'm going to pick 2, -5. -5 is my y value in that coordinate, so that goes in for the y sub 1. So right there. Now, I'm also noting that plus -6, a plus a negative is a negative. So I'm just going to write this as -6 times the quantity x minus. This is always x minus, okay? And then in for that, x sub 1 is our x coordinate, which is 2. And we are done. That is how you find the equation of a line in point slope form. Thanks for joining me. Make sure to subscribe for more math videos. Till next time, remember, you've got this.